Ross Gerber just stunned me and many Tesla stock investors. He says Tesla will not even let you configure a new Model Y, only selling inventory cars. Never seen that before, and by no means a good sign. If you go directly to Tesla's homepage, on the homepage, it does have an Explore Inventory option and then a Demo Drive option. It does not have a Configure a Model Y option like it used to, but if you go right here, you can still configure a Model Y or any Tesla vehicle without any issues. Ross Gerber also just sold more Tesla stock. It is now his number 6 position. I don't think it's just me who's stunned. Farzad is concerned about Ross. What happened to Ross for real? I hope he's okay, he says. And someone here says that Ross Gerber has told me personally he tweets things that benefit his position, so I'm guessing he's shorting Tesla. And she seems to be serious. I think that's obvious, but I do not think he's shorting Tesla. I would be extremely surprised if Ross Gerber is actually shorting Tesla stock. I really don't think he is. What's funny is that Ross is posting all of this on Threads, which is Facebook's clone of Twitter, and he's really bashing X. Ross probably regrets giving Elon money to help take Twitter private. Wow! About 40 Cybertrucks are visible today at Giga, Texas. Pay very close attention to this. What are you observing? If you listen carefully enough, you might be able to hear some Tesla bears scream and cry. As a Tesla investor, all I see is good Cybertruck production here. But as a Tesla bear, I would see higher therapy costs. Therapy would be centered about how the Cybertruck still is not really real because, you know, some of these are missing some pieces of metal here. So therefore, the whole thing is still not real. Looks like Farzad is going to fail at his New Year's resolution. Dear Tesla, please stop making so many Cybertrucks. My New Year's resolution is to temper my expectations. You are not helping. Please, stop already. Reuters is reporting that a Danish labor union is now also joining the Swedish strike against Tesla. They say, we cannot allow one man or one company to come and say, I want to do this in another way. You need to change your system. If you want to be here, you are very welcome. But you have to follow the rules. As if Tesla does not follow the rules. Tesla's employees do not even want to unionize or have a collective agreement because they make more money. Despite the union trying to bribe the employees basically by paying 130% of their monthly salary just for them to join the strike, they are refusing. The union here basically says, even though you actually follow all of the rules, we are going to blackmail you unless you do exactly as we say. That's my translation from this because, you know, it's in one of these European languages. This particular language is called BS. I'm pretty good translating BS into things that you can actually understand. A new report from Bloomberg claims that Tesla has decided to skip stock-based compensation this year. So this is a bit unexpected. During annual performance reviews, employees usually get salary adjustments as well as merit-based stock grants on top of their existing equity. But this year, even high performers did not get the merit-based grants, the employees said. Some Tesla employees who reached the end of their 4-year vesting cycle were still given stock refreshers in order to keep their total compensation competitive. According to the report, Tesla is still doing modest cost of living increases and adjustments to their base salaries. It's unclear if this is a one-time move amid a tough year where Tesla had to cut prices. And there were a lot of price cuts in the year, and we are seeing these big additional discounts in Germany because the subsidy expired much sooner than expected, and that's going to cost Tesla some money. If it is a permanent policy, then hiring is going to be a little bit more difficult. My guess is stock compensation will return, but it will return to perhaps some of the better performers and top performers only. If you recall, in 2019, Tesla was going to close its retail stores, but eventually it decided not to. But in that process, some were closed, and most importantly, a lot of the commissions and bonuses were reduced, which effectively lowered everyone's compensation who worked at Tesla's retail stores. So I think Tesla is just trying to figure out a new compensation structure here. And because the company has gotten so much bigger now, if you are just a regular employee who is not a top executive at Tesla, you don't really see your efforts reflected in the stock. But if you are a top executive and you do a great Model 3 refresh, then yeah, that will be reflected in the stock price. So you are more motivated to be compensated in stock because you know you can force the stock to go up because of what you do. But if you just work at a Tesla delivery center and you help deliver a few extra vehicles throughout the whole quarter, that is not going to be reflected in the stock price. So you can work a lot harder and the stock does nothing. So I see why people like that would rather just be paid in cash instead of stock. Volkswagen has just announced that they will too adopt Tesla's North American charging standard starting in 2025. This of course includes Audi as well as Porsche and not just Volkswagen. And Rebecca Tanucci, who is in charge of Tesla's superchargers and expanding the charging network, said, earlier this year, the North American charging standard was just an idea. Today, with the Volkswagen Group's commitment, almost every major automotive manufacturer is finally on board, rallying behind a shared vision of improving charging experiences for all EV drivers. There actually might be a little bit of correlation, not a lot, with how quickly someone signed the deal to work with Tesla's charging standard and how quickly they will go bankrupt. I would certainly exclude GM. That one is an outlier here. They signed pretty fast, but they are not doing great. We really only have Stellantis and Mazda left. Everyone else is pretty much on board already.
Who else is going to keep their big honking trash? I don't think too many. I think that anybody with a brain can see that this is the way to go. And that, actually, here's another thing. Just look at the size of the cable. Look at the size of the cable between these two things. This is like ridiculous. This is the worst design on the planet.
Speaking of brains, I think someone with the brain of a Tesla bear designed that junk. Tesla went from just one automaker using Tesla's charging standard basically to now 28 automakers committed to Tesla's North American charging standard. One reason why it was so difficult for Volkswagen to sign this deal was because it invested into Electrify America $2 billion. They were forced to set up Electrify America as a fine, basically community service for their Dieselgate cheating. So it must hurt a lot to finally capitulate. But don't worry. Volkswagen, the same will happen to your car business as well, eventually. Tesla beat you at supercharging, and now eventually Tesla is going to beat you at the number of vehicles sold. I generally do not think they believe it is going to happen. Otherwise, they would have been a lot more serious about going all electric. Sandy says it is a good day for Volkswagen, but I strongly disagree. I think this is a very sad day for them, actually, even though it is the right decision. It's just way too late. Tesla moves to pause a lawsuit alleging race bias at the Fremont factory. This is because it says two similar cases should play out first. Tesla said the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission rushed to file the lawsuit in September as part of a toxic interagency competition with a California civil rights agency that made similar claims last year. My judgment here is the more political Elon Musk gets, the more lawsuits alleging racial discrimination and things like that start to happen against Elon Musk and Tesla, and more investigations suddenly are opened into Tesla. It's just such a coincidence. We are hearing more about the Cybertruck, and now Tesla has started letting more people configure Foundation Series Cybertrucks again, so check your account and see, maybe you got an invite from Tesla. So it says, I have had about 15 followers place an order since this post. So that's within about 3 hours. All were able to configure in wave 2, but missed their chance. They quickly took advantage of it in this third wave. If you didn't get an invite, just keep refreshing your account. Gary Black just made a prediction. Tesla price matrix in the US is likely to change over the next week to eliminate the distortions caused by the removal of EV credits on the Model 3 rear-wheel drive and the Model 3 long range, which makes the Model Y rear-wheel drive and the Model Y long range cheaper than comparable Model 3 trims, which make absolutely no sense from a consumer's perspective because the Model Y is better when you get into it. You don't have that divider in the middle on your roof. The Model Y on the inside just feels nicer. So there are definitely not that many people that are willing to pay extra for the Model 3. And the Model X long range is now cheaper than Model S long range, in my opinion. Says Gary, we will see a combo of Model Y increases and Model 3 reductions that net out to be a revenue neutral move to make the pricing matrix consistent with Tesla's historical pricing matrix. I tend to agree with Gary on this one. Historically speaking, Tesla has been pretty quick to make adjustments when rebates and EV incentives change. In Germany, Tesla basically replaced the whole $5,000 government subsidy with a price cut, effectively. And it did so really fast. But a refreshed Model 3, from the reviews that I have seen, I would say overall it's a better car than the Model Y, unless you really have to have that SUV form and shape. So I think there are some people that are willing to pay extra for the refreshed Model 3 instead of getting a slightly cheaper Model Y. However, the data from China says that there aren't that many people that are willing to pay basically almost the same amount of money for the Model 3. They would just rather actually buy the Model Y. A 2024 Mercedes Maybach EQS SUV gets 280 miles of EPA range. Maybe that's not too bad if it's a $100,000 Mercedes. I mean, it's still embarrassing, but not terribly awful. But it is a Maybach, so it's gonna cost more. It actually costs $180,000. Now, Sawyer said that it gets up to 305 miles of range, but that's not for the Maybach. I think he made a mistake here. The actual range is 280 miles for that $180,000 version, which is just embarrassingly expensive. Maybach is supposed to be luxury. Part of luxury is not having to charge as often. If you get a cheaper version of that car, then yes, it is only $105,000 and you will get 305 miles of range, which for that price, that still sucks. But then it's not a Maybach. The Maybach version is just a lot more luxurious. Remember the data from Lending Tree from yesterday saying that Teslas have the most accidents per 1,000 drivers? eHack.com writes that Lending Tree cites Mercury as the safest car, but check out the average age of a Mercury driver. It is 57. And there are multiple data points that suggest that Tesla drivers are on average quite a bit younger. For example, for insurance savings app Jerry, 70% of Tesla drivers in their data set are younger than 34 years old. Cox Automotive data also shows you that, Tesla drivers are on average younger. Beyond age though, Teslas are predominantly male-driven. 71% of Model S and X owners are male. 84% of Model 3 owners are male, yet males make up just 49% of licensed US drivers. So yeah, Tesla buyers are mostly male. Male and younger drivers are statistically more likely to face an accident, incident, or fatality. The top age group for deaths is 25 to 34-year-olds, which might be one of the most popular age groups for Tesla drivers. Per Statista, males also outnumber females in accident deaths by 3 to 1. Wow. So this does seem to be a fairly good rebuttal to the Lending Tree data suggesting that Teslas are not safe. I also read some of the comments from yesterday's video, and many of you are suggesting to use voice commands when adjusting temperature inside the vehicle instead of trying to adjust the temperature on the screen while driving. But at the same time, I don't really want to use voice commands when I have passengers. So what I try to do personally, as much as possible, if I drive in a city, I wait until I stop at a traffic light and then I do my adjustments. I almost never make the adjustments while I am actively driving. And if I do make adjustments while I am actively driving, I try as much as possible to first put the vehicle into FSD or at least autopilot. And then of course, if I am driving alone, I try to use voice commands, but I still much rather prefer just changing that on the screen when I just stop at a traffic light. I am often deep in thought while I'm driving, and using voice commands, I find that just interrupts my thinking. Tesla China uploaded a post promoting purchase benefits before the end of the year if you take delivery of a refreshed Model 3. It offers discounts of about 2,300 United States dollars in total if you put everything together. Now, one of these is an insurance incentive, which we expect that every single quarter, so I don't see that as an actual discount for the Model 3 that's not expected. But there's also a temporary low interest rate offer. So overall, to me, this suggests that the reason why Model 3 deliveries were so low so far, relatively speaking, to the Model Y numbers, was mostly because people want the Model 3 to be cheaper. So I expect price cuts next quarter, certainly for the Model 3, which is fine because remember that Tesla increased the price for the refresh Model 3. So if we cut the price, we just come back to where we were before. Every single month, pretty much, we see a new Tesla recall, and it's such a big deal in the mainstream media, but you never hear about Ford, Chrysler, BMW, Mercedes, all of them have more recalls in the US. Ford actually is the most recalled brand. You never hear about Ford recalls. And while Tesla's total recalls affected about 2.1 million vehicles in the US in total, if you only include vehicles that required you to serve the vehicle physically, the number only was 21,500 affected vehicles. And I think for most other brands, when there is a recall, you actually have to take the car physically to a dealership, so Tesla is actually doing fantastically well here. With the holiday update, Tesla added the new side pillar camera views to your Tesla app, so that's nice, but of course there's still no bird's eye view. But we now will have 360 high fidelity park assist for some vehicles, and eventually hopefully for all vehicles. Tesla is slated to see the highest net inflows from retail traders of any security in 2023. And when looking at this S&P 500 ETF, Tesla is actually going to have higher total net inflows than that S&P 500 ETF. Wow. That's pretty cool. I am very happy to have contributed to these net inflows this year. This could be really good news for Tesla owners in the US. The government announced today that it will seek feedback on how government rules should be updated, potentially unlocking $7.5 billion in federal subsidies for the Tesla-developed charging connector. This means more chargers are likely to be built that will specifically be able to charge Tesla vehicles. Doug DeMuro just reviewed this EV Rolls-Royce Spectre vehicle. With all of these options, it costs a little bit over $500,000 actually, and I know you might be wondering how much range does it have? As a Rolls-Royce, it should have fairly good range. I mean, the vehicle is so expensive. But it turns out the range is actually really bad. It has a pretty big battery pack of 102 kilowatt hours, but it only gets 260 miles of range. That's just, I mean, the Mercedes one was bad, but this is just next level. The terrible Rolls-Royce range actually starts to make sense when you realize that it weighs the same as the Cybertruck. That's just crazy how heavy this car is. In the meantime, Stellantis to launch a hydrogen fuel cell powered Ram pickup trucks in the US by 2027? Is this a joke? To me it is because it makes me laugh. Volkswagen did make the right move to adopt Tesla's charging standard, but its new flagship ID.7 EV is off to a really slow start in China with Only 300 orders in 3 days. That's terrible. Here's a story that is not surprising at all. Auto journalist Blazer EV road trip turns into a software nightmare. The infotainment operating system powered by Android Automotive all but completely died multiple times on this journalist's drive, as in very concerning screen flashing, which then culminated in a totally black display. No apps, no navigation, no charge routing. Wow. When plugged into an Electrify America charge station, the Blazer EV briefly fast charged before going into charge fault limp mode. This limits the vehicle's charge rate to 5 kilowatts. You're gonna take the whole day to charge the vehicle at this speed. That's pretty bad. Which is also what I will say when GM finally goes bankrupt or gets bailed out by the government. That's pretty bad. Yeah, like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see you in tomorrow's episode. Thank you so much for watching.